And here on my script, I see to say, I'd like to introduce myself. My name is Melissa Schreck. I'm in the Dean's office. I'm the Director of External Affairs and Strategic Planning. And on behalf of the Dean's office, I do welcome you all here today. So we've asked Stephanie Boone, Dr. Boone, to facilitate this conversation because she has a long-standing relationship with Duke, personally and professionally. So I'm very excited for Dr. Boone to take over today. But before we get started, I am going to just read a brief bio to embarrass Dr. Appiah. So he earned his Master of Public Health in 2009 and his Ph.D. in Epidemiology in 2013 from the U of L School of Public Health and Information Sciences. He received the Ruth Kirschstein National Research Service Award as a National Heart, Lung, and Blood Institute postdoctoral fellow in cardiovascular epidemiology at the University of Minnesota when he graduated and was at Minnesota until 2016. Dr. Appiah received a BS in Optometry during his time in Ghana, and that was earned in 2005. And currently, he is associate professor at Texas Tech University Health Sciences Center in the Department of Public Health, and that's at the School of Population and Public Health. He currently serves as director of the MPH program. So without taking up any more of your all's time, I'm going to turn it over to you, Dr. Boone.
Okay. Can everybody hear me? Thank you, everyone, for coming today. I'm really excited to sit here with Dr. Appiah. We have known each other for a long time. We started the PhD program together in 2009 and went through all of our classes together, candidacy, and also graduated in the same semester in May of 2013. And so I'm excited that he's finally back in the Ville, and he is here with us today to talk a little bit about what he's been doing since he graduated almost 10 years ago. And one of the things that we wanted to talk about today was how you actually ended up at U of L.
Okay, so that's a good question. And I'm sure everybody can hear me well. So as she said, I would still like to thank you for coming to listen to me. Usually when people come to listen to me, they pay. They pay tuition to listen to me. But I'm glad you are coming just for free. Although you got free food though, so that's good. So I've told this story a lot about like how I ended up at U of L. I know a lot of people have passion for the school and all that, but I always have to be honest with you. I really didn't give much of a scoff about U of L. I just wanted a school which was further away from my parents. And then, because I don't want my mom and dad always coming every weekend, so I found the School of Public Health, and epidemiology was always my passion, so I wanted that. But the thing which like really was the deal breaker for me was when I realized Louisville was the hometown of Muhammad Ali, and I love boxing for a lot of reasons. The two sports I like are football in other parts of the world and soccer in the US and boxing. So when I knew it was Muhammad Ali's hometown, I said, that's it, we're going to the home of the champ. So that's what really brought me here. Yes.
Okay, and you definitely kept true to your love of football from the Ghana team. He definitely gloated when Ghana beat US in the Olympics. So do you still follow them?
Yeah, but I still follow football and I still follow other sports, but I don't do it as actively as I want to, simply because I have new bosses at home who take care of the TV. If I change it, there's going to be a lot of conflict. And so I normally just follow live scores, and maybe when they are not there, then I just switch and watch a little bit. But even then, there's a lot of contentions, especially with my girls. I always have to just fight with them a little bit just to get my own remote. And you might think, why don't you buy another TV? I'm not really a big fan of TV. I just want TV for sports. So I don't want to have a too big one-eye monsters at home. So yeah, but I still follow it.
So you didn't know much about U of L, but can you talk to us before you came here, but once you got to U of L and the School of Public Health, can you talk to us a little bit about your experience while you were here as a PhD student and an MPH student?
Yeah, it was a nice experience. I will never forget it for a lot of reasons. Some of the nice experience I remember, you actually involved in it, you have forgotten. But if you remember 2013, when we won the national championships, that people hated us so much, they canceled it. But um, it was a nice time. Usually this is how I roll. I never really support the school that I'm in until maybe they are the final. And so we went to the final. I was hoping we wouldn't, but we went and I was excited. And I remember we were playing against Michigan. I really remember that game because I was watching it and I had to turn off my internet at that time. Like I was just watching it online, so I had to exit out because they were shooting a lot of three-pointers and we were not doing much. So, and then I said, well, let me go back and watch again, and we were winning. So that was a nice experience. But one of the things which makes me remember it was the next day, I think you even actually went to watch the game or so, if I remember correctly. But one thing you said was that they can't shoot three-pointers forever throughout the whole game. I don't know if you remember, but you said that. But it had a lot of meaning to me because it let me know something that it's all about life. Like so you can do a lot of things in life at the very beginning, but it's very difficult to take it throughout. And so those are one of the nice experiences because everybody in the town was happy about our victory and stuff like that. I also, like my experiences, I met a lot of great people here, like great friends, great colleagues. Like yesterday, you saw Dr. J.P. Skinner, Dr. Vanita Farrow. So I met people who became long-term friends, like Adele Mendes, she was in my class. Renee, we're all like longtime friends that we still stay together, and they all helped to make life very comfortable when I was here. So I met good people. I enjoyed the education that I got, and for me, the experience was very nice because it was when I was here helping friends with work that I really discovered my passion in teaching because all along I always said, I don't like to teach. I don't have the patience. But when helping people and saying, oh, you explain it in a better way than that we could understand. I said, really? Okay. So it was there. Then with time, I said, maybe I could actually do this. And so I always remember U of L for a lot of good reasons, but it was also where I discovered most of my passion and purpose in life.
Thank you. So academically, are there any courses that really sparked your interest that you still kind of keep with you today in your work and things that you do?
Oh boy, you want my former professors to be mad with me?
You have to pick, you don't have to pick one. It could be all of them.
Yes.
The whole program, right?
Yes. Yes. I'll talk a little bit more about them when I'm talking about my teaching philosophy,
Okay.
but I was passionate about epidemiology, so everything I did, I enjoyed it, and so all the classes I enjoyed and took a lot out of them. Yes.
So it's been 10 years since we graduated and your first time back to the Ville, right?
Mm-hmm.
And so since you've graduated, could you talk a little bit about some of the things that you've done to get you where you are as an associate professor? I know that you spent some time in Minnesota as a postdoc from 13 to 16, and now you're the director of the MPH program. Is there some other things that you could tell us about in terms of your research and your teaching?
Okay. Well, as you mentioned, I went to Minnesota and I went to give birth to two boys there. Enjoy the cold, test my strength against the cold. So from there, I went to Texas Tech University Health Science Center, and over time, I became associate professor and the director of the program. So basically, I've been teaching, publishing, and writing grants, not as many as I would love to, but I'll do that more in the future. So that's what I've done. I've had a family who keep me on my toes, so it has been a good journey for me.
And you've been really successful in publishing. Can you talk maybe about one of the things that you've published on, one of the research topics?
Yes, well, my first paper will always be the one I remember the most because it came out of my dissertation. And so that was published in Diabetes Care. I like it so much. But I always set targets for myself. It's not like things that I'm so infatuated with, but it's just target that I set for myself. I always wanted my name to be in the best journal with regards to impact factor in the world. I didn't know how I was going to get there because it was a cancer journal, CA Cancer for Clinicians. And so one day I published, I had a student who was really interested in nutrition, so we did something on skipping breakfast and cancer mortality. And then one day I was there and I received an email from CA Cancer Journal, like, we want to write about, put it in perspective in that journal. I said, really? Is it junk or what? Junk mail? Because I wasn't expecting them to reach out to me. And so when they did, I was impressed. And to get my name in that journal, I was really happy. I wasn't expecting it. It was something I desired for it, but I didn't know how I was going to get there because I wasn't really doing much of cancer research. And one of the few papers got highlighted. So that made me very, very happy. And then one of my other targets was JAMA. And when I got in there and they brought me on national TV, I was so excited about that. So I would say those are some of my accomplishments that I enjoy. There's a paper that I did in asthma. It was mainly focused on Lubbock, but it revealed more of the health disparities in the town. And so all the TV stations came to talk to me, all the radio stations, and majority of the radio stations and newspapers have to publish it. So it made me feel good because when I went through town, people say, hey, we saw you on TV. Like I was checking out at Walmart, well, you the one on TV? Just right and go. Say, yeah, that's me. Say, wow. So, but I like those papers, not because I got the exposure, but then it also, especially the paper in Lubbock, it put a lot of issues in the health disparities, especially with regards to like neighborhood and stuff like that and how it affects health. And I'm proud of that because it got people doing something. And so for me, even though it wasn't published in a very high impact journal, it did what I wanted it to do, raise awareness for problems that people were experiencing, but nobody really, people knew it, but nobody had, let's say, the skill set to put it out there for people to actually know, the city council to know that, yes, this is what is going on. So those papers make me proud because it helps me to shine a light on other people too.
Thank you for that. I think it really helps to have those high-profile journal articles because it puts epidemiologists on the radar. A lot of high-impact journals tend to be clinical features and whatnot. So you mentioned that a student was on your paper, and that's great that you give them opportunities to work with you in your analyses and manuscript preparation. And it kind of leads me to the next question about your teaching philosophy and mentoring. Could you talk a little bit about that?
Okay, so this is my favorite question simply because it gives me the chance to actually tell secrets about myself and also to snitch on my professors as well. But I wouldn't call myself an excellent teacher because I'm still learning. I'll call myself a great teacher because in 5 years that I've taught, I've won 4 awards in teaching. So at least I'm doing something better for people to recognize that at different levels of my institution. I wouldn't take a lot of credit for that. If I'm taking credit, I would say maybe less than 20% because 80% of it came from observing other people teach. And then I just added a little bit of my, let's say, specialty. And so when I was here, I really wanted to be a TA. I don't know, like it was something I wanted to do, but I never really got the opportunity to do it. But I don't hold any grudge or anything. It's just, I just love to do it just to get a chance to see what I could really teach. And when I went to Minnesota, like I had 2 advisors, Dr. Aaron Folsom and Dr. Pamela Schreiner. So they gave me the chance to teach, just like guest lecture in their classes, and they gave me feedback. And Dr. Folsom is a man who is very hard to please because he's very accomplished, but he was always pleased with my work. And the comment he always gave me was, if you are teaching, you have to be very captivating. And I said, sure, how could I do that in your class? You are the top epidemiologist over there. Everybody respects you. How can I go and express myself in your class? But I took that advice very well. How can I get people to listen to me for all this or keep them captivated? And so My teaching, I would say, if I'm going through the MPH program, when I came, my first class was Intro to Epidemiology, and I met a professor who I learned a lot from him. And one of the things I learned from him was he was very confident in himself. He made a class fun, jovial, with a lot of jokes, but he was very confident with himself. I gave him a nickname he doesn't like, but I still like to call him the God of Epi.
My God.
Yes. That's Dr. Frank Groves. And one of the things he would do, which always etched in my mind, he would ask a question or he would say something, and then the next slide he was on, and he'd say, "Am I good or what?" And I said, "Whoa." Like, really? I haven't seen a teacher who was like so confident in himself, in his abilities and stuff like that. So from that class, I took on, okay, you have to be confident when you are talking. You have to be confident in yourself. And actually, I shared with my sister that, hey, my professor, he said, "Am I good at what?" So sometimes my sister will actually say it when she does something right. But what I took from that class was you have to be confident in yourself. And then there was another class in the MPH program, which was taught by Dr. Mira Harris, and she knows that I really don't give much of a scoff with program evaluation. It's not something that I'm passionate about, but her class, just the name of it, at that time it was called Critical Thinking and Program Evaluation. The critical thinking part got me excited. I said, really, I've come this far? You really think I don't know how to think or something? So I went into that class just knowing what would happen. And that class, there was a lot of critical thinking going on there. And so I always love to go there because when you go, like, she'll ask questions whilst you are answering, you answer it in a way you think that you are doing well, but then she asks you, "Have you considered this?" And you say, "Oh my God, I'm going back again." So that class, I really wanted to go back every day just to see what will happen with regards to the level of the critical thinking, how we are going to be exposed to things and how to think about it. So that really, that's one of the cornerstones that I picked, that I always have to be a critical thinker and challenge people also to be a critical thinker. And so that's another aspect that I took that is part of my teaching philosophy. And then when you come to the PhD program, I learned a lot from everybody. Some of them, it was even outside of the teaching, outside of the class. So for instance, with Dr. Rick Baumgartner, he was always kind to me, I would say that. And he always said things which really like encouraged me a lot. And he's very accomplished, as you know, but sometimes he'll say, "Duke, you ask too hard questions." And I'm thinking, me? Like, I just gone into FP, you have been there for long, and you say my questions are hard. But it gave me confidence that I was doing something right. I was thinking about the problems right. And so what I took from him was that you have to give hope and encouragement to people. You have to find a way to build up their confidence, because it really encouraged me for the chair of the department to tell me, "You asked a lot of hard questions." That was something which motivated me a lot. And then he was very open to meeting, which I liked a lot. Every time you go to him, even if he has a grant due, he'll give you about 5 minutes and he will talk to you. And then he'll say, "I have a grant due, so please let me concentrate." He will never say, "I don't have time for you." That's one thing I realized. He was always open to receive you. And so because I enjoyed talking with him, back then we had Paula Bosmeyer, and I believe she used to leave the office at 3:30. And I didn't want to go before 3:30 because he always had to check his schedule and tell me where it fits in. But then knowing that she left at 3:30, I always was passed by at 4 because there wouldn't be any administrative assistant to oppose me or anything, and he will always receive me. So what I learned from that experience was that you also have to be accessible to students. Like, you have to create a room, even if you have a deadline, yes, but you don't know what a student is coming with at that very moment in time. Just give them the time to listen to them can make a lot of impact. And to me, it has made a lot of impact because I apply it in the way that I teach, make time for everybody. With Dr. Taylor, I didn't really take a class with her, but I sat in one of her class, and she did a lot of demonstrations with SAS in her class, and I liked that. And so it wasn't like a SAS class. It was, I think it was statistical modeling or something like that. So what I took from that class was that sometimes you had to demonstrate to people what you want out of them and then see what they can also produce. And so I also applied that in my teaching as well. With Dr. Kerber and Dr. O'Brien, one of the things they always love talking about genetic epidemiology. You can ask them a question about sports, and then they will end up with genetics. So, like one of the things I realize is you have to also be passionate about some of the things that you teach. If you have the opportunity to teach a class, maybe pick the classes that you are very passionate. If you have to do it, maybe you have to develop some passion for it. But one of the things I learned from them was that always be passionate about what you teach. And over time, people will realize that, yes, this person is really passionate about it. With Dr. Kathy Baumgartner's class, I loved it a lot in the sense that that's a class that I wrote most of. Like, it was like, I remember there was a research project. I had to write like almost 60 pages or so. And man, it was draining, but I was so excited because they will always tell us your dissertation had to be 100 pages or more. Up until that time, my biggest paper was like 10 pages. So I was wondering, how do I move from 10 to 100? And so when I was able to write like about 60 in her class, I was so excited about it. But what I took from her class actually lives with me every day. So if she ever sees me presenting something anywhere at a national conference, she should be proud because she gave us a template of presentation that I have used it throughout all my life. From that very class, every presentation is the same template that I use. And so she helped me professionally, even beyond the classroom. And so that's what I also took from her. With regards to Dr. Horn, and his classes was also challenging in a way that, and exciting because he will give you the opportunity to choose what you want to do and go out and research about it. And so I also include that in my classes. I let people choose topics of interest that they like and go and research about it. But there were a lot of things that some of these professors did outside of the classroom, which really also influenced me a lot. So for instance, I was going to do a presentation at SCR in 2012. It was oral. He sat me down. He went through all the slides with me. It was a long time, but he went through everything. I really appreciated that he had a lot of time for me. He will always see me in the hallway and say, "Come here, young man." And so I really like the fact that like people were open. They sat down with you and then they went through things with you. So I also took that aspect of it, challenge people, but also try and have time that you can actually build somebody up. The same thing happened with me and Dr. Frank Gross when I was in my MPH. I remember the practicum, I was doing it at the HIV clinic. Like he sat down, he analyzed the data with me. And then when it got to the very hard part, he looked at his time and said, "Well, it's 5 o'clock. I'll see you Monday morning." But I really appreciate the fact that he sat down. He didn't have to do that. He sat down with me, go through all the coding, analyze it, sometimes explain it, because in the MPH program, we never really learned about Poisson regression. I had to use it. So he explained all those to me at that point in time. And so it reminded me that I also need to sometimes go way out of my comfort zone to reach out and help people. So all these things that like I experience, it has also influenced what my teaching philosophy is. And I have combined all of them, and I believe that is what has made me to be a good teacher. I would never really take all the credit because it's by observation of these people and stealing some of their techniques that has made me better. All that I added was that I added myself. Like I had to be myself, and that's always what I advise people. You just have to be yourself. If you are yourself and you do things, you enjoy it better. It doesn't become more of a chore. It becomes more of a fun activity. So everything, I always try to put my personality into it and then do it the way I think is best. Of course, you learn from others, but you also have to have your personality on it. The other thing I do is I always read students' evaluations. I read them whether good or bad. The bad ones, I still read them and then I go and do something else and I come back to it. But I always read them. Some of my bad evaluations, I remember it more than the good, because I remember there was one student who gave me a bad evaluation and the comment was that this professor reads everything I send in. I'm saying, whoa, is this really like a bad record?
Doesn't seem like a negative.
Yeah,
thing.
but sometimes, and students get to know this. There are some professors, you turn them something in and then they just give you some grade. They don't really read everything. And so when it got to my turn and I read everything and correct and send, like, he didn't like it because I had to actually do what he paid me to do. But then that comment I still remember, because even though it was a negative one, it at least it made me know I was doing something good. So I'll always say, look at students' evaluations and learn from it as best as you can. And it has all really improved like my teaching when reading students' evaluations and trying to implement how like they do things. And then finally, one advice that Dr. Schreiner always gave to me, it was more about peer evaluation, like peer review. Like sometimes you will say something and the reviewer will come back and say, you didn't do it. And like, I used to be angry about that, and she would say, you don't have to be angry, just find another way to say it that they will be able to pick it up. And so even in teaching, when someone says something that even though I have done and they say I haven't done, I just have to find another way of presenting it that they can have. And finally, I've had like good, I don't have them nowadays, but the early part of my time, I had students who were like, they were not TAs, but we made them to be TAs. Like one of them is right here, Damilola. And so they also help like with students like interactions, because a lot of my students always say I'm very intimidating, even though I'm not intimidating, but because I say I'm not intimidating because I don't know how many classes like you will go whereby at the end of the class, students will go and buy like cupcakes and just come and celebrate because you had a great time. I know some of my colleagues or some teachers who actually buy it and bring it to class, maybe to bump up the course evaluation a bit, but I normally don't do that. So if you have students actually come to do that, then like it means a lot, because then even though they find you intimidating because you know a lot, they still find you to be approachable. And so some of the students that's like acted as, let's say, teaching assistant also helped my class to be better. So in a nutshell, I really don't have a teaching philosophy, to be honest with you. All that I have said is I just try and put it together and then add a little bit of spice of Duke and it, and that's it. Yes.
Thank you for sharing that. It seems like your experiences in the past and current have really shaped your values, and you've had a lot of time to reflect on that. So one common theme, I think, is that the professional development that you were able to hone in on and that was nurtured, personally and professionally. Can you talk a little bit about how important involvement in service and collaborations in your professional life are?
Well, that's good.
To kind of help along.
Yes. I've always been honest with you. I really joined a lot of these professional organizations just for tenure and promotion. That's basically because you always have to show that like you are doing something, some service out there. So for me, that was the main thing that I went in there to do. But as I was doing it, you come into contact with people. So for instance, like in American Heart Association, I'm on the diversity committee, and then like every conference that we go, they bring up people from underrepresented populations who want to do science, go into medicine. You get the opportunity to talk to some of these people, encourage them, help them to do what they are doing. And so even though I didn't go into some of these things to help people, but to help myself, I realized opportunities came along for me to be of help to other people. So, and for me, like I've always said, like, my motto in life is that success is not about what you gain or achieve or all the things that you collect, but the impact that you make in the life of people. And I've had so many experiences. I remember like there was one student of mine, I wrote like a recommendation letter for him. And usually like, I'm one of the people who can make a 10 100 because I know how to like embellish things. And so even though I never lied in his letter, but I said it in a way that looked really good. And when he read it, he cried. He said, nobody has said all these nice things to me before. And it touched me because it was just a letter, but to him, it meant so much to him. And so he still gets in touch with me now. So for me, all these service activities that I do, even in the university and outside, it opens a door for me to be of help to people. And so now I have more of a meaning to it than just getting tenure and promotion.
Thank you. So can you talk a little bit about what your goals and aspirations are for the next few years? I don't know if you have a 5-year, a 10-year plan.
I really don't have I don't tend to have a lot of 5, 10 years. I just have a plan till I die. That's what I do. And so I just go every year. I'll keep on publishing, I'll keep on teaching, I'll write maybe a little bit more grants. Now that I spend a lot of my time teaching classes, I'll try and maybe write more grants. Those are things about my job that I do that I'll keep on doing. I will not really change much about that. But there are 2 things that I will do with a lot of passion, and I'll do them intentionally. One of them is to look for opportunities to be of help to other people. Like, even though I do it, I'll be more intentional about it. Students, colleagues, that's what I want to do. Find ways that I can be of help to people, how I can help others rise up, and how just any way I could be of service to people, whether students or colleagues or even people outside of academia. That's what I plan to do for the next half of my life. The other part is I want to enjoy my life. I always say that because I haven't been intentional about it. It doesn't mean I'll just goof around and not do anything, but I'll try and find time to spend with the people that I love, people that have made impact in my life, my family, friends. I'll just be more intentional about it. And so if you ask me my long-term goals, I'll say those are the 2 main things. The other ones is part of me. It will never change. If I don't teach or if I don't do research, I'm not the same person. So those are things I say they come natural. But those 2 things that I said, finding opportunities to be of help to people as well as making sure I enjoy myself, those are things that are my long-term goals, and I'll do them with passion.
Great goals to have. There's
Thanks.
a lot to be said about taking care of yourself and enjoying things as life goes by. So thank you for sharing that. And we know that over the past 10 years and even during your degree, it takes a lot to accomplish that, a lot of energy. Mm-hmm. And so can you talk a little bit about what are some things that you enjoy doing? How are you going to enjoy your life as one of your goals?
How am I going to enjoy my life? Just basically do the things that I like to do. Tell my kids don't bother me at night.
Early bedtime.
Yes, early bedtimes. It's just basically usually I don't do a lot of things, but for instance, sometimes just finding time to write a paper that I like, I consider it to enjoy myself. Sometimes even just sitting down in silence is fun. And then again, like travel and stuff like that. Like I've accumulated so much vacation that if I were to use them, I would be gone for like 6 months and never come back. And so I could actually use it for a sabbatical, I thought, and be paid. So it's just doing the things that I like to do and then spending time with the people that I love and who also love me.
You're pretty busy with 4 kids, so
oh yes,
yeah, and you stay up with soccer. And I was told last night that he's pretty competitive at lawn darts, and and you like doing fun things like that, like backyard barbecues.
Yes.
Right? Yeah. Okay, so I guess to kind of wrap this up, one of the last questions that I have is any advice that you would have for people that are currently in school or graduating this year or still assistant professors or any?
Well, I do have a lot of advice, but it's not something that you have never heard of. Like you heard last night, I'm very competitive. The thing is that I now know how to be competitive and how to use it for good. Like if you go back to my education in Africa, one of the things they do is they will always make you competitive against others. And because the opportunities are limited. And so if you are not so competitive, you will never really be able to rise to the top to be able to achieve some of your goals. But now, even though I'm competitive with myself. I don't care about what others are doing. I'm very excited for them, but then I'm competitive with myself. If I do, let's say if I write 10 papers this year, I say, okay, now we have achieved it. What can we do the next year, which is better than this year? And so now I compete with myself to be better and not compete with others to be better. There are a lot of opportunities out there for all of us that sometimes if we compete against each other, like we don't all achieve it. We destroy a lot of lives, sometimes by our words or sometimes by our actions. But most of the time, all these opportunities are available that if you rather help each other, we'll be able to achieve it. One of my advice would be that life is not always going to be linear. You'll be in class with people who will go ahead of you. You'll be in class with people who will be behind you. So life is never linear. Like, for instance, I always use this, some of my life events as ways to encourage people. When I came to U of L, I was passionate about infectious disease. That's all I did. Even in my PhD, I knew I was going to do infectious disease for my dissertation until Dr. Wang, who was at the HIV clinics, contract was not renewed. And so that meant I had to switch. And so being able to adapt is some of the things which helped me. And so that set me back a lot. I remember when you were doing your presentation, like your defense, I haven't even written my my dissertation yet. And when Big Mac was doing his, I was somewhere in the middle. And I was wondering, will I be able to really finish? Because if you realize, I took a lot of classes and my aim was to get out quickly. I took all these classes, but then just because I switched and also I had a lot of issues just getting data access, you had to be flexible. But the thing I tell about that story is I was always happy for you guys. Just seeing you present gave me encouragement. I can also do it. And so you had to love the success of others. Like there'll be people when you graduate, they'll go ahead of you, they'll get more grants than you, they'll publish more than you, they will achieve things. You have to be happy because I'm very happy if my colleagues do a lot of things and I like publishing, sending it around because, hey, I sat in class with this person is achieving something, I like it. I enjoy it that at the end of my life, maybe when I'm retired, I could have friends that have also achieved things and we can talk about it rather than me just being the one who achieved it and others didn't. And so look out for the interest of others and never give up or never lose hope. Like, as I said, people will go up and achieve things. Some will achieve it before you do, some will also not achieve it, but you just have to believe in yourself, and that's why I get religious. If you believe in God, believe in what God can do with you, but never lose hope. I will always tell people never lose hope. If I look at my life, where I came from, what I had to go through, all limitations, all difficulties to get here, I always say you should never lose hope. You always have to have something that will keep you going. And always have a good heart. Look out to help people, because this one, Dr. O'Brien always used to tell me, the good that you do, others will do it unto yourself. And it's true. Most of the things that I did for my professors when I was here, I see students also doing it for me, even in life, others to do it for me. So I would just say, as you go on in life, try and find ways to also help others to be like you or to even be better than you, because it is nice to tell somebody that, like, my student has done more things better than me, but guess what? I gave them the platform. And so finding ways to be of help to others, and don't give up, believe in yourself and what you can do. And sometimes live your dreams, especially as students. And that's one of the things I broke off very fast that I enjoyed, is you have to live your own dreams. Your faculty, they have good intentions. They always want you to be this rock star and all that, but you have to find what actually makes you happy. Even though you also want to make them happy, but you have to find what makes you happy. And so do what makes you also happy, and so that you don't live someone else's life that they want for you, but you live your own life that you want for yourself, because that's the only life you have, and so enjoy it whilst you have it. So that would be my advice.
Thank you very much. That was very inspirational, and I just want to congratulate you. You're a very deserving person of this award, and I'm
Thank
proud
you.
to call you my colleague, and I'm excited to see what the future has in store for you.
Thank you.
Round of applause.
Yeah, thank you so much. So thank you for that joy and happiness and positivity and the rundown of all the professors. That was excellent. Dr. Appiah, thank you. You've given some good advice to the students coming behind you. We're opening it up now for Q&A. So at this time, we don't have any questions on our Zoom, but for our Zoom folks, feel free to raise your hand and we'll call on you and ask you to unmute. Is there anyone here in the room that would like to make a comment or ask a question of Dr. Appiah? Am I going to call on somebody? I'll just walk up and hand you the mic. Thank you, Dr. Baumgartner.
Excuse me, I don't actually have a question for you, Duke, but I wanted to make a few observations. You know, you've got a really high intellect, which is something that impressed me from the very first time I ever met you. But I'm so proud of the wisdom you've developed and you displayed today. Another thing is your irrepressible curiosity always impressed me also very much. You'd ask me questions that frankly I didn't know the answer to, which I think you kind of conveyed, and I would tell you that I didn't know what to tell you because I didn't know the answer to the question. Irrepressible though, because I tried to repress it and that didn't work. Another thing that you probably have gathered that is irrepressible is his sense of humor. So just as an example of that, sent me this thing called the academic translator. So, you know, when an academician like you all says something like in a paper that they're citing various sources, what do they mean? I forgot the name of the author of that paper. Or when they say we're grateful to the two anonymous peer reviewers for their constructive comments, what do they really mean? God help us, I have to find out who they are. This is a promising area for interest. That means you have to do this to get funding. Widely discussed in the academic community. I accidentally ended up in the middle of a river. The notes were meticulously transcribed. I was drunk and missed out at least 7 pages. An extensive literature review, that means a quick Google search. Complex phenomenon, I don't understand. As long evaded I understand that I don't understand. It's impossible to summarize simply. I still don't understand. Approaching the traditional threshold for statistical significance. That's what the biostats joke. It's not significant. There's no such thing as approaching statistical significance. And ultimately, the one mantra to us all: more research is required. I need funding.
Thank you, Dr. Baumgartner.
Thank you.
They were having a little trouble hearing, so that's why I was trying to get my mic in there, so I'm sorry to distract you. But for the folks, Dr. Baumgartner, you're just going to send that out to everyone, right? You're going to share that meme so we all can enjoy Duke can share it, that's right. Any other questions or comments?
Very nice to meet you, Duke. Hope Ghana's national team goes up that Group H with Portugal. Is that Uruguay? Not a bad group, though. So,
Yes.
so I want to know a little bit about the experience you had in the task force on infectious disease preparedness and response. What did you in general do? What you specifically did? So we're curious about it, because I was involved with this COVID-19 task force a little bit. So I want to know what you did there. How was the experience?
Okay. So good question. Thank you. So that task force, the main aim of that task force was to advise the government on our infectious disease preparedness and to help forecast what we need to do for the future. So it's a task force whereby we basically review evidence that is reported, and then based on that make recommendations for what the governor have to do. Unfortunately, I got on that before the governor made his recommendation of no mask and stuff like that during COVID, which I always think it was a bit premature for him to do that, but he stood by his words. And so it's kind of those things, like if he needs to do something, what should you as the experts tell him to do? So I wasn't really involved in, let's say, the modeling aspect, but then you will review the modeling stuff that have been done and can advise him that this model is not really good, this model is good, and stuff like that. So that was it. Like personally for me, if you go into the COVID modeling, some were not really good. And the sad part of it is, for me, I always say nobody, there was no accountability. If the person missed it, they missed it, like nothing was done to them. And so hopefully we don't have a pandemic anytime soon, but I hope we will have a more robust, especially review of some of these models that come out and people make policy decisions on them, because you shouldn't miss too much if you're going to make policy on someone's models. But for my work over there, I wasn't really involved in any of those models. It's just about being like an expert review of the information and giving advice to the governor.
I think we have time for another question.
Yeah, so we have several people online, so I have a couple comments and then one question here. So Dr. Mira Harris is on the online. She tuned in, so she wanted to say that she's so happy she didn't miss this. You were phenomenal.
Thank
So
you.
she was
Thank
very
you,
happy
Dr.
to make
Harris.
it. And then we had, let's see, I'm not sure what the name is here, but saying congratulations. Oh, this is Dr. Golston. I enjoyed your presentation. I only wish Dr. Marilyn Brown was with us. She would be elated at your evolution. I'll contact you later to catch up.
Thank you, Dr.
And
Goldsmith.
then we have from Dr. Nick Piper, huge congratulations, Duke. Very thankful to have been your classmate. And then we have a kind of comment question here. So thanks so much for the opportunity to attend the program. Congratulations to Dr. Duke Appiah. Can you tell me more about your background? If you can give your link in order to follow you for advice in my academic progression, thank you. Okay,
well, usually like when someone else asks me a question like that, it's so broad. And one of the things I always do is I always want specific questions, because I don't want to answer a question that somebody didn't ask. So my background, I really don't know what to say about that, but I'm glad the person wants to follow up with me. So all I would say is, if you ever put my name in Google, like you will see so many ways to get access to me. But if you put duke.appiah@ttuhsc, you definitely get hold of me.
Anyone else in the room? Okay, well, thank you so much, Dr. Appiah and Dr. Boone, for today. It was wonderful to be with you and with all of our colleagues here. I think we'll have one more round of applause for our colleagues and for our 2022 Alumni Fellow. And oh, there's Dr. Harris. Oh, you can. It's good to see you, Dr. Harris. We miss you. All right, well, thank you guys. Have a great afternoon. Thank you all for being here.
Thank you. Thank you, Steph.